Future Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback, Mason Rudolph. And everybody in Pennsylvania just logged off.
Yes,
Mason Rudolph.
Everybody just podcast before it even started.
I think the biggest thing, though, to take away is we wondered when they went out on a limb and picked up Haskins, was he going to get a chance? And Mason Rudolph wasn't terrible, but he obviously wasn't great. This tells me Dwayne Haskins is over.
Yeah, he's dead. He's going to be in the XFL. You got to remember, XFL's coming back next year, right?
Yeah, with the Rock owns it now, right?
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of guys that we're going to see get chances out there. And I can't wait for, because PJ Walker, that's how he got a chance. And now his chance went down the drain with the return of Cam Newton. But welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour podcast. I just realized, I'm on here and I'm realizing it says week 10 preview on there and it's week 11. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
That's how at least you got double digits.
That's how this has really been going. This has been a stressful, insane week for me. I wasn't on the show last week. As most of you know, I was in LA last week for American Film Institute's Film Festival, which was a blast. But today we are going to go ahead and look ahead at week 11. Matthew Fox is going to break down his favorite matchups of the week. I'm going to give you my favorite bets of the week. Fox is going to go over his starts and sits, and I'm going to give you some plays that I like and don't like in the world of DFS. And then, of course, towards the end of the show, we're going to break down our favorite segment, which all of our segments are our favorite segments. But we're going to break down some of the movies that we've watched recently and give you some movie recommendations on the back half. But as always, I am joined by my partner here, Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you? And now I know we haven't talked in 2 weeks on the air, so I know for sure your house is complete, right?
Yeah, it's going to be even more fun because they're having some kind of a hay bale party at your work in the background, but they're putting stairs in at mine. So if you hear me quickly transition to the mute, it's because something's blowing up behind me.
So what you're trying to tell me is your house is not done.
No, and if you were betting over under on whether it was going to be complete before we went on our Thanksgiving trip a week from today, I might start taking the not going to happen side of that.
Oh, man. So I wasn't on the show last week. I was not on the show last week, but I did make sure that Mr. Fox got my weekly picks in. And I will say I'm on a bit of a roll right now. I believe I was 4-1 last week on the picks that I said.
I will say, though, we didn't include this. You were correct to be hot on the Panthers scoring a couple touchdowns and winning, but you said PJ Walker was going to have a good game, and it was really more Cam's return.
Well, I expected PJ Walker to, but it didn't really matter because either way, it was what it was. I expected the Panthers to win or to cover at least and score the couple touchdowns. But over the last 2 weeks, I am on a heater. I am 8-2 in the last 2 weeks. Between some of the bets, I can't place all of the bets that I like because you can follow along over on BetStamp. It's a website where you can track the bets that I'm doing. I can't do all of the bets on there because some of them you can't find. But my record of the bets that I have placed on there, I am 41-22. 41-22. Now, if for those of you at home, we know that betting is very hard. It's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. And 41-22 is pretty solid. I'm almost 20 games above the old 500 threshold. But for me, I'm feeling confident right now. I'm feeling it. You know what I'm saying? And it feels good.
You don't know that I booked William H. Macy for next week's show.
Yeah, it's gonna be right off the heater, right on top. But the thing about it is I feel like I've found a niche to try to find some of the places where I don't think people are betting a lot and trying to find the better odds. Now, this week, I'll kind of go in depth a little bit about it, but if you can buy a point or two here and there to really go like today, just for example, there's a line of the Colts or whatever. If you buy a point, yeah, the odds go a little bit further out, but the payoff is still worthy enough for you to drop some coin on to make some money. You know what I mean? But I've really enjoyed the heater. I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as that football game last night. I'm glad I missed it. I'll be honest with you. The Falcons apparently aren't good at football, which is really surprising considering just a mere 2 weeks ago, they were the 6th seed or 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. And if that tells you anything about the NFC or the playoffs in general, the fact that we do have 7 playoff teams now does expand the horizon. But it's everybody in that range there's not a lot of teams that aren't playoff eligible in the NFC right now, I believe. So I'm looking at the playoff things right now. That 7 seed is currently owned by the Carolina Panthers at 5-5. Technically, every team, there's every team, what is it? I think there's 16 teams. Is it 16 teams? Yeah, 16 teams in the conference. The only team technically really on the outside looking in is Detroit. Every other team is 3-6 and better, which really technically is only like 2 games back of the playoffs, which it may sound like it's not that much of it's really not. Like, and then of course in the AFC side of things, you have 1, 2, 3, 4,
12 teams out of 16 that are over 500.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of
500 or better anyway.
Yeah, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams vying for those last 2 spots right now, because with New England's winning yesterday, which New England still isn't guaranteed a playoff spot because they're still only 7-4. There's so many teams there lined up that any given team outside of the Denver Broncos could really make the playoffs. So, I'm sorry. I said that a lot again.
And New England's next 4 games, they have Tennessee, which, I know we have consistently been surprised, but they seem to be the only AFC team that brings the big balls to matchups and actually delivers when they're asked. But the thing that's been interesting about the NFL to me in general is we don't have any incredibly dominant team. Even the 5 teams we thought had separated themselves in the NFC have all come back to the pack a little bit. Cardinals had injuries, have lost some games. We've seen the Rams drop a couple of games in a row. Tom Brady has thrown a gaggle of interceptions the last 2 weeks. They've come back to the pack. The Dallas Cowboys got blown out by the Denver Broncos. I mean, we are not seeing anyone in either conference exactly pull away. And I think that's going to make it really exciting. There's still 8 weeks of a season left. The season goes till January 9th. There's still plenty of time for all these teams that are tight packed to make a run. Like, as good as New England looks right now, 7-4, their next 4 games, they have Tennessee, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Buffalo again, and they have a bye in there. You go 0-4, you're down to 7-8, and it's like, now I got to scrap to get in. Or what if you go 1-3? Then you're talking about 7-7 team that's down the stretch. So as good as somebody looks at 1 minute, you could see things change in a quick hurry. And the fact they're all tight packed and that we have so much parity is going to make it really exciting and really fun, but also a bear to try to handicap these standings.
Yeah, it's really hard right now. I couldn't guarantee. There's very few teams that I feel like I can guarantee a playoff spot to, and feel confident about it. And especially since we only have 1 bye right now. Obviously, Tennessee's kind of in that driver's seat because they did beat a couple of the top teams that they have that tiebreaker over. But I mean, if you look at a team like Buffalo, I still think Buffalo is probably the best team in the AFC. I think the biggest problem they're running into is they're not running the football. They can't run the football. Like I don't. And my problem with that is
maybe you don't give the ball to Matt Breida. I'm just saying.
Well, that's.
Maybe he's not the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think, and that's the thing, like, I don't understand the usage of Zach Moss. I feel like Zach Moss is probably their best running back. And I don't feel like they never let either him or Singletary, let one of them get the flow and stay in the flow, right? You know what I mean? I feel like they take them on and off the field too much.
That's like almost every team now, because look at what New England's doing. I thought Damian Harris has looked great at times. He looked good last night. Ramondre Stevenson has looked great at times. He looked incredible last night. They're almost dead even splitting the carries. That's been my problem with Denver a little bit too. I get frustrated because Melvin Gordon's the guy they go to in the red zone because he seems to have a nose for the end zone, but he also has a propensity to put the ball on the ground. And just about the time Javonte Williams is going ham on a defense and trucking people, they make a switch. And I feel like that's, for fantasy, that's tough, but it's also been interesting to watch from an NFL standpoint because you've had very few of these backs that are getting 30 touches a game to dominate.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it's funny when I was looking at the stats, like people were comparing like who the leading rusher is right now. Obviously, Henry is now in a tie with Jonathan Taylor, but Jonathan Taylor has done it on like 80 less carries. You know what I mean? Jonathan Taylor is averaging 5.8 yards a carry.
Because his coach sometimes forgets he exists on their team, I'm pretty sure. And he's give me Jordan Wilkins. That's our running back, right? And you're like, no, bro, it's not.
Let's not talk about them. One of my more overrated coaches in all of football right now. I still feel like Frank Reich is, and I understand there's a lot of teams that are worse, and I understand they're 5-5 right now. And
I'm glad you weren't here last week when both John and I picked Mike Vrabel as our midseason coach of the year.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't hate that. You know what I mean? I think either him.
I mean, you gotta respect what they've done anyway.
Huh?
You have to respect what they've done anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing about it is I feel like, but this is the thing, like this team, like the Tennessee Titans have done this several times in the before. They were the 1 seed that 1 year and they got their mouth tore out by Baltimore at home. Like this team is going to thrive, and they're taking advantage of teams that are still trying to find themselves. I think Kansas City still has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Period. I don't care. They're playing a little bit strong, but I think the biggest reason why they have the opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl, not just because of their weapons, but I don't think there's a clearly dominant team in the AFC. So they have the experience in the playoffs to win football games when maybe they shouldn't be winning football games. The defense isn't good. I also don't feel like people are trying to take advantage of the Titans where they need to take advantage of them. That secondary is awful, and their pass rush has been improved this year, which has really helped the back end. But they also, if you look at the Titans games, they should have lost to Indianapolis, okay? They should have lost to Buffalo. They should have lost to Seattle. And those three games are very, for me, it's you're winning by luck. And come playoff time, you don't win games by luck in the playoffs. I really don't feel like that. I don't buy the Titans until the Titans win 2 playoff games and get to the Super Bowl. At that particular point, I'll buy this team. I still don't think Ryan Tannehill is a Super Bowl quarterback. I will stand by that until he has a Super Bowl Lombardi trophy in his hands. But without further ado, we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, which is fine because that's what we just like to do on the show. But I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Fox break down his games of the week.
Yep, so we have a pretty full NFL slate. My early window game that I like on Sunday, the 5-5 Indianapolis Colts are going to battle the
Matthew Fox is dealing with some drilling in his house right now. That sounds
Sorry, I forgot the matchup too. It just dropped out of my head. It's the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills are 6-3, but they have obviously Indianapolis New England breathing down their neck. The Colts worked really hard to get back to 5-5 to get into that playoff race. So I think that is going to be a pretty exceptional matchup. The Sunday late game window one that I love might be the game of the week. 7-2 Dallas Cowboys, who bounced back in a huge way, got Dak and CeeDee Lamb going good, going against the Chiefs, who finally look like the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes looked like what we expected from Patrick Mahomes last week. They're 6-4. Both these teams have a chance to kind of move up in the conference standings and do some big things. I think that's going to be a big matchup. Sunday night game, if Big Ben is still out for Pittsburgh, I think becomes a little less interesting. Minkah Fitzpatrick is definitely going to miss, which is going to hurt Pittsburgh's defense. They are 5-3-1, and they are battling the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 5-4. I'm hoping for a little Justin Herbert magic. He hasn't been rock solid for fantasy lately, and that's been a little bit of a bummer. And then the Monday night game, the New York Giants seems to be every team's get well game lately. Not everyone manages to get well against them. Hopefully Tom Brady and the Buccaneers can do so. I do think they're going to win. Saquon Barkley is back. I've seen a lot of people saying, I wouldn't start him. He'll be lucky to be an RB2. Why? If he is healthy, they held him out to protect him. I think if he's back, he can still be an RB1. I know Tampa Bay is good against the run, but Saquon can catch passes. They find creative ways to get him involved. If you have him and he's finally healthy, you're playing him. I don't know why you're putting him on the bench. You drafted him for a reason.
Yeah, one of the things that's really frustrating over the last couple of weeks is watching the play calling for the Chargers. Like it kind of really just went all over the place. I mean, we went from a guy that was looking almost like an MVP candidate, and then out of left field, they've kind of really alienated him in a way that doesn't make any sense. They kind of, I don't know, I can't explain it because they've looked rough the last couple of weeks, and they've kind of got him off of his rhythm of what he was doing, and that to me is very frustrating because this team is better than their record. You know what I mean? They should have beat Dallas. They beat Dallas. I'm sorry. I still didn't get those points that Justin Herbert got, the 7 touchdowns that I think he threw in that game that got called back. But this team is a lot better than their record. I think they're one of the more dangerous lower seeds that none of these division winners are going to want to see in the first round. I think they're that dangerous of a team. But the thing about it is their play calling's holding them back. And it feels like something that we always talk about with the Chargers is their play calling. Something's weird going on. And I know it's a new head coach. I love their head coach, but they need to get it together with him. And I feel like they need to establish the run a little bit more with Eckler. Eckler's a very good back, and I know he's a multi-purpose back, but use him as that. I feel like they need to establish the run a little bit more. I do think that there's a couple games that really have my eye real quick that I'm kind of intrigued by. I'm really intrigued by that. Like, I'm really intrigued by the late window game of the Bengals and Raiders. I feel like those are two teams that are really
whoever loses that is in deep trouble because both of them have lost 2 straight. Both of them were once on the top of their division. Now they're 5-4. You drop to 5-5. It's more of a grim logjam. So you're right. That is a pressure-packed one, and I have no idea what to expect, honestly.
And the other game that's really intriguing to me this weekend is Green Bay. If Green Bay can beat Minnesota, they're going to be almost 4
The division's over.
Exactly. They're going to be 4 games up on that division. And that, I mean, unless there's a collapse of all epic collapses, like Green Bay can really kind of be in that driver's seat to get to get at least the home field advantage on that first playoff game, which is important. And I think the same thing can be said about Dallas. A Dallas victory this weekend and a Philadelphia loss this weekend. You're looking at a team that is officially like 3.5, maybe 4 games ahead of them. So they can kind of, it's not, you don't want to get into cruise control, obviously, because you're playing for that first round bye as well. But there's only one first round bye right now. So it's really hard to kind of fight that battle to the top. But for me, for this week, bets. Let's see what I got. I am all over a couple different bets this week. I am back on. Okay. I am back on the Panthers again this week. I'm going to ride it until they're 3-point favorites. Right now, going against they're going against the Washington football team this week. The Washington football team, look, I understand they won this past week. It felt like something that was just meant to be because Heineke lost that playoff game, and maybe they could have won that playoff game, but they didn't win the playoff game scenario. And then Heineke comes in and just beats the Bucs and kind of did his thing. But I really think Cam Newton brings this team back. The Panthers team that we talked about at the beginning of the year, of being a potential playoff team, I still think they have an opportunity to be a playoff team, and they could be kind of dangerous. Newton did look good, and I think that the idea of Joe Brady with Cam Newton is very fascinating because I think that he can utilize him in a way where he can take the maybe some of the things that Cam can't do anymore and kind of take them out of that offense. You sprinkle in CMC. I think if they get Anderson involved, it makes Anderson more of a threat. It gets more one-on-one coverage, and it kind of.
Please let Robbie Anderson get some targets.
He looked good last week. He finally, he had double-digit fantasy points for the first time since I think week 1 or 2.
Please let DJ Moore also get some targets. It's just so sad.
But I think that this team can really benefit from Joe Brady's. I think is a phenomenal head coach, but they realized Darnold wasn't the guy, right? You know what I mean? And I think they can put some play packages in, and he gives them that dual threat. Newton gives them that dual threat that opens the field up for CMC. You have the what is it called? The RPO that they can run, where you actually have 2 guys that are actual threats to advance the ball down the football field in Newton and CMC. So I really like what they're doing there. Another thing to kind of tack onto that, everything suggests to bet Washington. Panthers have failed to cover their last 3 games at home. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games against teams with losing records. I don't care. Cam is back, period. That's how I feel about this story. All right. So another thing that has burnt me over the last couple of weeks is picking a struggling team to go over a touchdown total. Last week, the Panthers made me look good. This week, I'm back on the Texans over 1.5 touchdowns. Okay. I know I'm willing to be hurt again. Okay, guys, I am. I still think, look, the Texans they're 10-point underdogs on the road in Tennessee. And I'm telling you what, it would not surprise me if the Texans win this football game. Okay. It's not my hatred for the Titans. I don't have a hatred for the Titans.
It's a little bit your hatred of the Titans. I mean, come on. The Texans have looked like garbage.
I understand that, but the letdown game for the Titans always happens. It's going to they lost to the Jets. Let's not forget that. Okay. All right. I'm going to get off that team because it annoys me, but this is the game that I was talking about earlier. Fox is laughing at me for those of you not watching the live stream, but right now there's a team. Okay. So the Colts play the Bills this week, which I think is going to be a very good game. Now, again, I mentioned this earlier. The line is +7. The line is +7 right now for the Colts. Okay. +7. And that's a good number because it's like, I think at 110. I like the Colts at +9 this week. I'm buying 2 points. you're at minus 135, right? So you're still getting 66, I think it's like 66 cents per dollar when you bet, okay? So it's still favorable odds that you can really get a little bit juice and you get a little bit more benefactor. So even if it's a touchdown game, you're not pushing, you're saving yourself. And I think this Colts team is a type of team that can go into Buffalo and truly, truly beat Buffalo. I think they can. And I say that because one reason, if Frank Reich gets his head out of his ass and runs the football, and keeps Josh Allen off the football field, they can win football games. They can. It's weird to think about that, Frank Reich, but when you give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, he gets the ball down the field and scores touchdowns. You don't always have to Carson Wentz is playing out of his world.
Are you suggesting that a team use its best player?
It's a crazy idea.
I don't know about that strategy.
I'm sorry. It's a crazy idea. I apologize. It's a crazy idea. I know I'm presenting crazy ideas on the podcast, but you know what? Sometimes you got to.
All of my redraft fantasy teams would like him to use Jonathan Taylor a little more.
Okay, so that's 3 bets that I like. And for the 4th one that I like this week, also keep an eye out on the Twitter. For Chris Clarkson and I's weekly bets. I might sprinkle in a few more bets there this week. So I always try to make some of those different from the ones that I give on the show, because I like to give you people that listen to the show some exclusive access to some of these shows. Also, check me out on TikTok. I do some TikTok bets as well. I sprinkle a little bit everywhere just so that everybody gets a little appetizing taste of what I bring to the table. But with that being said, my last bet of the week, Eagles Saints over 43 points. Everything kind of suggests that this potentially could be a low-scoring affair. But to be honest with you, I think the Saints win this football game. I really do. I'm sorry. I don't care how you paint Jalen Hurts' numbers to make him look like a good quarterback. He's still not a good quarterback. Okay, he's a very good fantasy quarterback, and I understand he's a QB1. But that's fantasy, guys. You got to be able to differentiate the both sides of the football. But with that being said, I am slightly concerned without Kamara, but last week, the Saints were able to put up 21 points without Kamara on the football field. Kamara did not practice yesterday. Keep an eye on that, because if he doesn't, I still like this. I still like the 43. I still do with Kamara, without Kamara. If you get it now at 43, if Kamara does play, I like that 43 even more. But I'm still going to go with it either way. So with that being said, folks, we're going to transition to our start sit. Fox is going to give you all of his starts for the week. His is going to be in the world of fantasy football. Mine's going to be fantasy football, but lean heavy on the world of DFS. So Fox, go ahead and kick us off with your starts this week in the world of the NFL.
I picked the Eagles just for a fair counterbalance. I actually am starting to think Jalen Hurts might be a decent quarterback. I did just check, no updates on Kamara, so you will have to watch. I'm hoping he plays. He's another one I could really use in fantasy. My starts this week, I, like Ricky, believe in the Panthers. Cam Newton is my start of the week at quarterback. I think he finishes top 12. The dude scored 2 touchdowns on his first 2 plays last week. Let's just say I'm all bought in. It's his home debut back in Carolina. There's going to be some good energy there. And Washington does not have what you might call a defense. He's also facing his old coach and his old offensive coordinator. I think it's going to be a fun game. My running back start, A.J. Dillon. We are not going to see Aaron Jones this week. A.J. Dillon was running back 3 last week, even though he pretty much only got featured in the 4th quarter. He was the only one to score touchdowns. He caught a couple of passes for 62 yards. I like what he's doing. My wide receiver and tight end start both come from the same team, the red-hot San Francisco 49ers. They are traveling in to play the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. The Jaguars don't scare me despite what they did to Buffalo. I am all on Deebo Samuel, who scored as a running back, vulturing Elijah Mitchell last week, and as a wide receiver, and George Kittle at tight end. The dude has been tight end 2. Only person to score more points than him since he returned from injury is Travis Kelce. So George Kittle is looking like the Kittle of old. Those are my starts for this week.
Yeah, I like those a whole lot. I am on Tyrod versus the Titans. He's only $5K on DraftKings. And yes, I understand that it's against the Titans. Y'all think I have this thing against the Titans. I do not. I just think that secondary is not very good. And I think Tyrod, first game back, I know he struggled the last couple of weeks. I know he has, but I just like that matchup. You can pay up elsewhere otherwise. Mark Ingram versus the Eagles. He put up 20 points last week without Kamara. I like him a lot without Kamara. I like him just a little bit less with Kamara. I still think that he can play a factor this week, even with Kamara in the game, but he's a smash start without. Robbie Anderson versus Washington, 4,600 this week. Washington isn't good. Anderson is looking at a resurgence after the biggest game of the season. I like him a whole lot. And then, of course, also in that game on the opposite end of the football field, I like Adam Troutman versus the Eagles, $3,300. He's got 19 targets in the last 3 games with Simeon behind center, which I'm very excited about. And I think and I know the Eagles are one of the worst teams in football against the tight end. So I really love that matchup, especially for $3,300. You're getting a tight end that's going to see potentially 4 or 5 targets for basically the minimum salary. Sits this week in the world of fantasy football for me. I've only got 3. I didn't really look at the tight ends. The tight ends is a disastrous position. I think you should just start everybody. I don't really care even if you don't even know his name, just start him just because tight end's so bad. But I just, you can't sit. Any of like the top 15, like you can't, like it's like Gesicki. Like Gesicki had 7 targets last week and 0 points. How is that possible with one? And he's still, I think, tight end 3 on the season. Like, that's weird to me. Like, it's crazy. Like, tight end has and always will be. Like, I don't know. I'm starting to think that maybe we should just get rid of the tight end position in fantasy football. By the time the year 2030 is around, we'll only have quarterbacks and wide receivers in fantasy. I think that's going to be a thing. But with that being said, Russell Wilson against Arizona, don't like the matchup. Until I see him 100%, I know Arizona has struggled the last couple of weeks. I need to see more, especially for his price. Deontay Foreman for the Tennessee Titans, I don't really care. I understand he had a good game last week, which makes 0 sense why he got as many carries as he did. He was on the street 3 weeks ago, and now he's the leading rusher for the Titans. I don't even know what's going on. I don't like it. I don't like the shared touches. He could go back down this week and be like a Kenneth Gainwell and just see 1 touch, and that wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean? McNichols might not play. He might be a decent matchup, but I don't like him for the price. And then, of course, Michael Pittman versus the Bills. I did talk about how much I did like the Colts, but I think they rely heavily on the running game, and Buffalo is really good against the wide receivers this year. I think if anybody else is going to thrive, it might be somebody else. Maybe those tight ends thrive this week, or maybe was it Pascal or even Hilton play. I think maybe those guys thrive a little bit more than Pittman does. The price is high, and it's a tough matchup. I don't like it at all. What about you, Fox?
Yeah, so my sits this week at quarterback, I'm sitting Tyrod Taylor. We were all waiting for him to come back. Thought he was going to get off to a good start. He looked dreadful the last time he played, threw 3 interceptions. I don't think the Texans have much going for them on offense. I know Ricky is more bullish, but I am not. My running back sit is Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. It looks like he's probably going to get activated off IR, but I doubt he comes back and is a solo workhorse. Darrell Williams looked really good last week as a pass catcher and as a runner. He was splitting carries with CEH before. I don't think either of them end up getting into the top 24 at running back because I think they're going to platoon with him coming back. Mike Williams is my wide receiver sit. I love the talent. He was wide receiver 4 the first 4 weeks. He's been wide receiver 31 in the weeks since then. There's something that's just not clicking there. I don't think he's a reliable top 24 start. And then my tight end sit this week is Dalton Schultz, another guy. I love the talent. He was doing some good things early this season. I'm not afraid of Blake Jarwin, but the Cowboys have too many options. Gallup is back. They're using Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. You cannot trust the volume. If he gets a touchdown, he makes your day. If he doesn't, you could end up with 4 for 42 in there. Unfortunately, the way tight end is actually looking this year, there are better options than that.
Yeah, I don't. It's an ugly, ugly, ugly position this year, and I am not enamored at all by what I've seen at the tight end position. Not very happy. I think it's ugly. It's going to continue to be ugly unless you have Kelsey. And there's at times where even Kelsey has not, produced exactly what you would expect out of Kelsey, and he's still a tight end 1. I think this is going to be like his 6th consecutive year as tight end 1. So. Which again, I mean, it's a testament to how good he really is. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's him or bust. You know what I mean? And I need Logan Thomas back. Also, Mike Williams, please score me some points this week. I really need the points. Okay, I need you and Herbert to get your life together. All right.
I mean, it's been a bummer because he looked like he was tracking to be Michael Thomas 2019. Now he looks like Michael Thomas 2020.
Exactly. So, all right, folks, with that being said, we appreciate you guys listening to the show. Also, I just want to throw it out here that I was really mad last week because all those bets looked really good except for the Tannehill over 1.5 touchdowns. I mean, that really made me mad. Like, that should have happened last week. I was just looking at the show sheet. But there is so many different movies coming out this weekend. So many different movies. So many different ways to watch them. Belfast is still lingering on in theaters. King Richard is on HBO Max, also in theaters. Tick, Tick, Boom drops on Netflix. And then, of course, the big release of the week, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I have not seen yet. But with that being said, if you have the opportunity to go see Belfast in theaters, please do it. It is a phenomenal film. King Richard's also a very good film. I saw it last week at AFI. I know Matthew Fox saw it as well. Not as enamored as I was, but still thought it was enjoyable, and I'll talk about it in just a minute. And Tick, Tick, Boom is a movie that's on Netflix that I say go watch King Richard instead. But what are your thoughts there, Mr. Fox?
Yeah, I saw Belfast last week, and I really loved it. It's up in my, I think I have it as number 3 right now for me, just behind Mass, and I still have Coda. I know I liked it a little more than you, but I love the performances. I love the sweet story, the really tight cinematography that Kenneth Branagh used, a lot of tight facial expressions. Jude Hill does really good. I was really blown away that there's kind of a closing sequence where you're really tight on Judi Dench that I thought was beautiful. The music sequence was really fun. It was fun to see Jamie Dornan performing at their kickoff. But I thought it was a really beautiful and emotional story.
Another film out limited theaters this weekend is Come On, Come On. Another film that I can't recommend enough. Between that and Belfast, I bounce between. I think I like Come On, Come On just a little bit more, but that Jamie Dornan scene is one of my favorite scenes of the entire year. I just thought it was so good. Like, it's just and the crazy thing about it is there's just like little things that I loved about the filmmaking with Branagh there in that sequence. And I'm pretty sure it was a lot of his direction, but one of the things that I loved the most about it was Jamie Dornan literally stares at Balf the entire time he's singing that song. He never once took his eyes off of her, and it made it just, it was one of those things where it was like a reminder of these characters that they're building up. It was a reminder. So yes, I really do love you, and I do appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do and everything. Like, it was just a very soft and warm moment that it's literally one of my favorite scenes of the year. And it'll probably go down as one of my favorite scenes of the year when it's all said and done. Next week, Fox and I are going to be live next Wednesday. We're going to do a show before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving obviously has got the big 3-game slate. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to be hosting a show next week. We don't know what it's going to be about yet, but we're going to do a Music City Drive-In episode next week. With that being said, make sure to head over to the Music City Drive-In. I'm just going to commit.
It's going to be about Gucci.
Okay. Well, a movie that I have seen, and the thing about it is with Gucci, and this is just a short little thing for it, it's far too long.
Look,
but
Ridley Scott fired his editor 2 decades ago. If you hadn't realized that yet.
Yes, but Jared Leto gives one of my favorite supporting performances of the year. I don't care what anybody says. I'm back on the Jared Leto bandwagon. But also,
I feel like that picture is going to have to make a couple more appearances.
Oh, definitely, it will. Oh, I'm gonna have to change that picture now. Like, it's gonna be the House of Gucci picture moving forward now. With the race being what it is now, I am fully submitting to the fact that he's going to be nominated for an Academy Award. I saw a few other films this week that I am not allowed to speak about yet, but I can tell you which ones that I did see. I did see The Tragedy of Macbeth. I saw The Tender Bar, and there was another film. What was it? What was the other film?
I didn't know those were embargoed because the people that saw them with you have been posting their scores and their reviews.
So The Tender Bar, you're allowed to. So wait, which one? Hold on. What else did I see this week? There's another one.
You saw Sing 2. You saw.
Yeah, I could talk about that one. Tragedy of Macbeth. You could do
it. Song.
Oh damn! What's the other? I saw one other one. What is the movie that I saw?
Oh, you saw Jessica Chastain in person.
Oh my God!
I'm disappointed that you only let Jacob get a picture with her.
Okay, so this is the thing. I asked her a question at the Q&A, and her and I had a moment. We had a moment together before this. So there was a.
You saw American Underdog. That's probably the one you can't remember.
No, that's not it either. I can't think of her. I'm trying to think of her. I don't remember. What movie did I see? I saw 2 movies Tuesday. Oh, being the Ricardos. Oh, I try to purposely forget about that movie. That's why I can't think about it. I can't talk about it either. I can't talk about that one until closer to the embargo for some. I can't even socially talk about it. Like they won't even allow me to socially talk about it. What was I talking about before that? Before I don't even remember. I was getting mad about something. I'm mad.
Jessica Chastain, you had a moment.
Okay, so she appeared, and it was funny because when she got there, she came down. The sound from the theater was making this weird speaker sound, and I have a clip of it. It's pretty funny. But she's like, so they ask her questions, making this sound, and it's really loud. Like she's talking, and you
Is
can.
this theater really close to my house?
But so she starts. She's like, "Am I the only one that hears that?" I'm like, "No." Like we had a moment. Like we made eye contact. We had a moment. Okay, I'm just gonna let everybody know. Jessica Chastain and we had a moment. But with that being said, they had asked the PR people. I'm not going to go into detail, but I got to ask her a question. I posted the question that she did answer on my Instagram, which is really cool. She was the nicest person in the world. She's just a sweetheart. Her talking about that film kind of made me realize.
Best actress winner.
I really hope so. Well, no, I don't. I'm not even going to have that conversation with you. But I wouldn't be surprised.
There's only one choice. But
I really feel like I think one other person's going to win or has a strong chance at winning, and they're not going to deserve that win, and that's going to be Nicole Kidman. She's a lock for the nomination. 1,000% a lock for that nomination. Just go ahead and shoot in. But with that being said, I can't really say anything else about any of those other films that I saw this week. I can talk about Sing 2, which I thought was amazing. I love Sing 1. I'm not an animated guy, and I really love Sing 2. Bono was a great addition to the cast. I thought he was great.
I actually don't care for you two. That almost made me less excited.
Well, the thing about it is like it's
the most overhyped band in the history of time.
Yeah, I mean that's back whenever they threw it on our iPhones for no reason. I remember that they put that album on the iPhone.
My literally one of my favorite Oscar moments is when they had the tight shot on Bono's face when they announced that Eminem won the Oscar.
Oh my God, what a great Oscar win that was. With that being said, I am out of here. I'm going to go do some work, watch a movie. Oh, I know what I'm about to do. I am going to watch Hawkeye, which I will review probably for the website at some point this week. Make sure to check out the other shows on the Drive-In Podcast Network, Uncut Podcast, the wrestling show. They had a great TikTok influencer that is really awesome. He's a school teacher that comes in and like does all the entrances to all of the wrestlers at his school, which is really, really cool. That was a great show. I listened to it yesterday. We got the Now Showing podcast. We have the 50 Years of Music podcast. We have the Music City Drive-In podcast. On that note, I don't know what the hell's going on. I've lost my sense of whatever. So it is what it is.
Go Cowboys.